What is good, YouTube? With the beta finally out for everybody to play, I thought I'd do a quick video walking you guys through the settings to ensure you guys have the smoothest and most enjoyable experience possible. Let's hop right into it. We're going to be skipping keyboard and mouse since I'm a controller player, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what you need to change there, but I'm pretty sure there are plenty of other keyboard and mouse players out there that can help you guys with these settings. Right, so controller settings. Right, so a lot of these settings will be personal preference, but I'm going to still walk you guys through it. So button layout preset, we've got tactical flipped. Obviously flipped is enabled since I'm using L1 and R1 to shoot. Stick layout is default. Controller vibration, this is something I suggest everybody turns off because I feel like this is more of a distraction than anything else. When you're trying to shoot people, you don't need your controller vibrating. It could mess up your aim even a little bit, and if you're a competitive player like I am, I suggest you turn this off. My sensitivity is 5.5. I've always played very low sensitivity. Obviously this is what you will be used to. Whatever you used in the past, I suggest you use that. Sensitivity multiplier, this is not relevant since this won't be used in multiplayer, so we're going to skip this. Vertical axis the same. I'm going to leave this default. Rest of this is default apart from automatic or tactical sprint. The reason why this is on, it allows for your movement to be better when you're trying to go around the map. If you're an aggressive player, this is a must. And the other setting that is quite important is ADS and melee on weapon mount activation. This is on how to slide cancel, which I will have a video on very soon, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Right, onto the advanced tab. Again, on this tab, it's going to be a lot of personal preference. Target aim assist on, that's a must if you're playing controller. Aim assist type default. There is also Black Ops, which I've heard people use before, but I've not really noticed a difference between them two. I suggest staying away from precision and focusing since you lose the rotational aim assist with these, so it's just not worth using. Aim response curve type, this is a very important one because I've played dynamic on every other Call of Duty in the past that this option's been available, but for some reason on this game it feels very sluggish and aim assist gets very strange with dynamic, so until they fix that I suggest you use standard or linear. I've tried both. I feel like with linear you get the raw input and it feels a lot more responsive, so if you guys do want to test that out and see if your aim improves with that, I suggest trying it. ADS multiplier, I've got this on 0.95. Again, the multiplier, I've got this set on different amounts for different zooms. For the higher zooms, I've got it higher. Obviously, if you're sniping, you want it to be a bit more responsive, so I've got it higher. Input dead zones, this is another important one. You want to lower this as much as possible without getting stick drift. And what this does is it allows your controller to feel a lot more responsive. And the same with the left trigger and right trigger. You can put these down to 0, so as soon as you press that trigger, it immediately does whatever action it is. So if you use L2, R2 to shoot, there's no delay in doing so. Right, everything else on here is default apart from these settings. Ground mantle off, automatic airborne mantle off, automatic ground mantle off. And again, this is for the slide cancelling video. Just make sure these are off. Onto the graphics settings. So I play on full screen borderless. That's mainly because I stream. If you do not stream and you don't have any issue with alt tabbing out, make sure you play on full screen as this gives you the highest frames. Then just make sure this is set to the right hardware. The rest of this is on default. Focus mode off. I think this might be on by default. I'm not sure, but focus mode off. And then custom frame rate limit. This is the one I suggest you change. Gameplay, put that all the way to the maximum. Menu and out of focus, put this at 60. So when you're not playing, the GPU isn't running high at all times, so it just helps save the lifetime of your GPU and temperature and all that stuff. All these settings are copied from Foves. If you guys know who he is, he's a very reliable PC optimizer. He tweeted these settings out and I've used them since the beta came out and I haven't been disappointed with it, so I'm just going to go through it. Just make sure you copy them all down. You get the maximum visibility and you get the maximum frames. Texture resolution high, low, high, on. Again, this one's personal preference. If you want the bullets on or off. Shader quality low, tessellation off, on-demand texture streaming off, streaming quality low, better map resolution. A lot of the time you want to turn the shadow stuff on low anyway. Screen space reflections off, ambient inclusion off, reflex low latency on plus boost. You want to make sure these three things are turned off. Depth field, world motion blur, weapon motion blur. Having these off gives you the best visibility possible, and film grain turn all the way down to 0. View, this is another tab that's a lot of personal preference. I have 110 FOV. This is so it's consistent with what I play on Warzone. You choose whatever you want to do, whether that's 120 or 80. That's personal preference. ADS field of view, you want to make sure this is unaffected. Essentially what this does is when you ADS on a gun, it keeps your FOV the same value as what you've set it here. When you put it on independent, it lowers it down to 80. Weapon field of view, this is a new setting that they've added. I have this set to wide. Essentially what it does is, like it says here, the weapon looks smaller, so therefore you have more screen space to see what's going on ahead of you. So it's just better to have it on wide, and the rest of the settings are left on default. Audio settings, I have a headphone bass boost. I feel like with these settings you get the best footstep audio, so I recommend you use this one. All of this is personal preference. Again, I suggest having music and dialogue turned down. This way when you're in game, the music doesn't start blasting when you're trying to clutch something, or the announcer isn't shouting in your ear when you're trying to play. That way you get the best audio for footsteps and what's going on around you. The rest of it is default apart from hit marker sound effects. I have this to classic. I feel like the classic sounds a lot more punchier. I like a good hit marker sound. I've always enjoyed games that sound like you're hitting somebody when you're actually shooting them. The MW1 doesn't really do it for me. This is personal preference, so if you want to choose MW, you do that. but I think the classic sounds better. The only settings I recommend that you change on the interface are the HUD bounce, where I recommend you turn these all the way down to 0. What this essentially does is your minimap is close to the screen, and then your information on the right hand side is also close to the middle of the screen. When you're playing, you don't really have to move your eyes all that much to look at the information. That way your eyes are always focused on the center of the screen, so you won't miss what's going on ahead of you. And yeah, that's all the settings. It was quite straightforward, but with all these settings I feel like you get the best experience possible. So if you were a bit unsure on what to do, hopefully this video helped. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.